and welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. I'm your host, Kyle Williams, and this is the #1 web show and podcast where aspiring independent artists and do-it-yourself musicians can learn right now how to gain wider exposure, grow a strong base of raving fans, and make a living doing what they love. Now, first off, I'm going to give a shout-out to one of our 5-star reviews of the podcast over at iTunes by Brooksy J. Brooksy says, "My two passions are entrepreneurship and music. Thanks, Kyle, for bringing the two together. Now I know exactly where to go to get new ideas for promoting my music and building momentum as an artist. Wish I could give it 6 stars. Keep it up." Thanks again, Brooksy J, for the awesome 5-star review on iTunes. And guys, if you haven't yet, if you really want to help get more exposure for the show and have an easy, convenient access to this show from your mobile devices, just head over to iTunes, to the iTunes store, go to the podcast section. You can search for Seeds of Music, Rise Above the Noise. It will take you to the page, and make sure you click subscribe, and it will automatically download all episodes straight to your iTunes account. It'll help, really help the show rank higher so that it will show up in the new and noteworthy section, since the podcast that I launched is still pretty new because I launched it back at the end of last year, and there's an 8-week window to be featured in the new and noteworthy section. So if you subscribe, that helps a ton. Also, you can leave your own rating and review, and that helps bump up the podcast in iTunes eyes, of course. So now in this episode, we're going to be talking with a guy named Michael Harewood. Now, Michael Harewood is a hip-hop artist, is a rapper who had his life changed after like years and years of being kind of a troubled child and drug abuse and being involved in gangs, and his life was changed by the gospel. Now, a lot of the songs that he creates is helping spread that message. So I'm going to sit down with Michael and talk about his story and also how to stay connected with fans after the show. Let's jump right in. Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. On the show, I have Michael Harewood. Michael, thanks for coming on.
Hey, what's up?
So, the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about is your background, because obviously that's a big part of your music. So, what was your life like before your transformation?
It was a life filled with despair, fear, denial, pain, suffering, unacceptance, trying to fit in, not being in touch with who I was, and trying to be something that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. And how did you fall into music from that?
I kind of fell into music just, having a love for it, and one day I just started playing around with some words, and they started just coming out of me, and I said, wow, did I just say that? And then just just chasing it from there and saying, little pieces of the puzzle starting to come together.
So what was it? But what was the first moment that you actually started, doing some wordsmithing? I mean, what was the situation? What was that like? I mean, was it like just randomly riding in the car and something came to your mind?
Yeah.
I mean, how did it happen?
Just riding in the car with some friends, and the beat came on, and I'm like playing with it, and I'm just like, and everyone's like, "What was that?" I was like, "I don't know."
Cool.
So something like that, yeah.
Okay, and so when did you start to actually? I mean, apart from that moment, when did you decide, hey, that I want to start seriously pursuing this, seriously pursuing hip hop?
When did I think? Let me tell you what happened. I was dating a girl who had some connections in the city, and I said, all right, well, since I'm good at this, why don't we go and talk to these people and see if they'll train me, or they'll take me or sign me a deal or whatever. So we went to the city, and what happened was they threw me out of the office because I was rude and I was arrogant. Oh. And I went to Puff Daddy's restaurant, and I remember I left a picture of myself there with some writing on the back, and it said, Puffy, a wise man always uses his ears. Give me a call. And I just left my picture there. I said, make sure you give this to Puffy when he comes in. The next day, my phone rings. It's Bad Boy Entertainment.
Really?
And it was a lady, yeah. She's like, hey, I got your picture here. I got your note. She's like, you really have a good look. They were like, you really have a great look. And she said, what do you do? I was like, I'm a rapper, I was totally on the spot. I wasn't expecting this. I hadn't written one song.
Hmm.
I just said I was just going off of pure excitement and talent, supposedly.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, can you sing for me? Can you do a little freestyle? So I did. I don't know what I said. I was just so like excited and just like,
Yeah.
on the spot. I don't know what came out. And she's like, all right, I'm going to get you an audition with Puffy. I'll get back to you. Let me see what I could do. I was like, all right, thanks. Click. And I just hang the phone up. I didn't get the lady's name or anything.
Hmm.
And she never called me back, but it was a real boost of confidence.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, they
Yeah.
called me,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like you thought
Hey,
outside the box by leaving your picture there with the writing on the back.
exactly. And
Yeah.
then, so I went back to the restaurant that week, and I'm in the bathroom, and who do I run into? One of Puffy's like producers, one of Biggie's producers.
Hmm.
Okay, he takes me outside. He introduced me to another producer. He's like, "Yo, look at this kid," blah blah. And it was just that's when I was like, I need to take this serious.
Okay. So it just kind of you felt like you got a little inspiration or a little bit of a sign from being noticed by people of that on that level.
Yeah,
Um, so what's the rest of the story until now, and what do you do now?
the rest of the story till now.
Yeah,
Wow,
in brief, in brief. I
in
mean, but
brief.
you don't
Oh
have
my
to.
goodness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like obviously, like you felt like you became born again, and now you do hip hop specifically for the church. Is that correct?
No, that's not totally correct. I mean, I am a new creature, I definitely have been transformed by the power of God,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
Um, but I do hip hop for the betterment of people,
Okay.
and I do get a lot of attention from the church, but that's not the confines of what I do.
Okay.
I'm definitely um, I do good music that people can get something out of and that they can relate to, and hopefully will inspire them into a great relationship with God, and obviously into a greater relationship with others.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
have like you've how's the fan base that you've built up like since that since you started creating that kind of hip hop that's like more on the positive note? I mean, do you have a strong fan base with that?
I would say yes and no. I do have a loyal fan base. I have a very supportive fan base.
Okay.
But as far, I have a quality fan base. Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
really do.
So a lot of like fans like interact with you across social media. They actually read your posts on when they do Facebook posts, make it to them. Read your Twitter's response. So, do you have like a good social media presence that responds back?
Well, we're really building it now. Because I'm really not a computer guy. I have an iPhone that didn't even have a browser on it for some time because of my own issues. But um, I really just started doing this music full time in January.
Okay, cool. So
So
you just made the plunge into it.
I made the plunge, I made the commitment and the step of faith to really put the time and the effort in because it's really a grind. It really is a grind. It takes a team.
Yeah.
It's not an overnight thing, and it takes a lot of time and attention.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And how do you fit into the overall scheme with your team? I mean, like you're not a computer guy, so you have like someone else managing your social media. How does
Yeah,
that work?
yeah. I have a company that manages my social media. I have a company that also does my PR. my press releases.
Okay.
They're now booking for me and possible management situation as well.
How did
Okay.
you get how did you get actually connected with them? I mean, did you find them over social media or did you meet them through personal
No,
contacts?
personal contact. Yeah, this venue that I perform at regularly, one of the owners of the company, used to go down there, and she was looking for a rapper for one of her events, and then her number got passed to me, and then once we spoke, we basically just started building, and now we have this professional relationship that works really well.
Okay. So what?
Actually, can I give them a shout out? Let me give a shout out to Chris
Yeah,
and
sure.
Alicia from TRS 24/7.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And they're the ones who introduced me to you. What's up,
yeah.
guys? You guys are doing great. Love you.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. We actually
You're
had them.
awesome.
We had them on the show not too long ago, and they
Yep.
sent a lot of great talent over to this show, which is great. So thank you, Chris and Alicia.
Yes.
Michael, there's this other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and this was just because I've a lot of the research that, and the music that I've listened to that you've created. It seems like transparency is important to you in your music career. I mean, how has it influenced your development so far? Just being like very transparent instead of trying to be so how
Yeah.
some artists try to hide stuff and be mysterious. Like
Yeah.
how does transparency work for you to build a loyal fan base?
Well, I guess like Lil Wayne says, man, I ain't got no worries, man, because people know me by listening to my music. I have nothing to hide,
Yeah.
and I can be me. I can really be me, and just being honest and forward, and it really has opened up a lot of doors and opportunities for me to help people because by being transparent, it actually helps other people be transparent.
Hmm. So do you think it's transparency is an advantage over, say, the opposite, where you're just because I know some artists have successfully created a lot of successful buzz around kind of like keeping themselves out of the public eye, but it seems like for you it's been really helpful.
Yeah, I can't do it any other way, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way, ever since I changed my life and God spared my life, um, I couldn't be any other way because when I start hiding things and keeping things in and altering who I really am, I think that puts me in a dangerous spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the core of success lies around being yourself,
Mm.
and anything else is kind of can be come off like a marketing gimmick, you know.
Yeah, and it also can put you in prison.
Yeah.
You understand?
In extreme
No,
cases, yeah.
not like prison like walls, but prisons in a wall inside of yourself
Yeah.
where you have to live up to this facade.
Do you feel like a lot of musicians feel like they have to is live up to this facade in the music industry, of like being like a image and less
Yeah,
focus on music? Do you run into that?
yeah, I feel like, I mean, even some of the bigger artists out there today, once you put yourself out there a certain way, I don't think you can just change it because when you're especially when people are invested millions and millions of dollars into you one way, you can't just like cornflakes. You can't just change cornflakes to wheat flakes, and expect to keep your client base.
Yeah.
So, if you come out a certain way, I don't believe you can just change. And if you do, you're probably gonna lose a lot of the fans that you had when you were one way, and that could be destructive to a business platform.
Yeah, but to you, let's say if you have like a genuine transformation and it's just the need to make a shift, musically or whatever, then it just seems like that would be necessary, and losing fans would just be a part of that. I mean, there's a lot of artists that have their music when they first started making music is different, and a lot of their fans fell off the boat. But I mean, they
Yeah.
still do pretty well. Like I mean,
Mm-hmm.
One example I can think of is Incubus.
Mm-hmm.
Their first album doesn't sound like the one they made in '97, Science, and Science doesn't sound like albums after that, and then what they did before doesn't even sound like anything they do now.
Mm.
But their fan bases has shifted. But so I think it's just kind of one of those necessary sacrifices you make. But so for your actual shows when you perform, what do you do after you're done performing? Because most artists will just step off the stage and say goodbye, but you do a little bit more. So what's your kind of marketing strategy to connect with fans after the show's over?
Oh, I definitely go out and connect with the people, and like to meet the people, talk to them. A lot of
Yeah,
people
yeah,
come up to me and they say, "Oh, something you said, really struck a chord with me." I like to elaborate and, build relationships. Obviously, you can't have personal relationships with a lot of them, but
yeah,
um, sometimes my spirit will tell me I need to speak to this guy or talk to this guy, or maybe even pray for somebody,
yeah,
at an event, and just try to be available,
yeah.
while I can be available because
While they're hyped up after the
yeah,
show.
yeah, while I could be available to them and let them know that I'm a real person. I struggle just like them. I'm not a hero, I'm not a god, I'm not an idol.
So
I'm just
yeah. So I just want to interject real quick because I think what you're saying is really important. So, like, you actually get off the stage and make yourself like available in some way, or invite someone up, and then you talk with them and you have this conversation where you help them to realize that there's a lot that's similar between you and that person. Do you feel like that makes like a really hardcore fan as opposed to done with the show, peace out, and walking off?
yeah, yeah. I spend time with them, like I did a show in Texas last year with a bunch of kids, and I just spent time with them, and just the relationships. It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships.
Do you think it would be the same with artists in other genres? Like if it was like a rock and roll band, or if it was electronic music? I mean, do you think they would still benefit from doing that, getting off the
I,
stage?
I think I think it always does, but it also depends on what type of message you're putting out. If you're putting out a message that's not a positive one, I don't know. You know, I always think back to, some of the artists out there that are not longer here, and I just think like some of the ones that left a little too early, like words are powerful, and like when we put out a certain message, sometimes it brings things into our life. I mean, I
Yeah,
know for a fact it does.
yeah,
And I just feel like, when I just give an honest message and I try to give a spiritual message, I think it creates a different type of element for me. Could be wrong.
yeah. Well, I think at the very least you're onto something there. Making, uh, because I've talked about this before in a couple episodes of this show, of this idea of the true fan, or the super fan. This is someone that actually feels a personal connection with you, and so even if you could only physically talk to six people or seven, actually have a good conversation with six or seven as your show, well, that adds up over time.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone else, you get on your
Mm-hmm.
email list and you do email marketing, or you get them on Twitter and Facebook, and you do your best to build relationships through that. But it's like, never ignore the ability just to talk to someone face to face and say, hey, I'm just like you. That it kind of elicits this response where they want to see you more.
Yeah.
Like to seeing a friend. They also would want to support a friend. So if it comes time, if you have to, if you release a single or an album or an LP, they'll be more likely to buy that because they have that friendship backing them. That
Word up.
little added something. So I'm gonna wrap this interview up with one last question.
Sure.
I ask this question all the time, or actually every interview. What's your favorite album, and what would your life be like if it never existed?
Hmm.
There's no timer on it. Just think about it.
favorite album. Hmm. Well, I can tell you one of my favorite albums.
Oh, yeah, let's go
I don't
for
know if
that.
it's my favorite. Is this one of my albums or someone else's?
Well, it's just the album that's influenced you a lot, and then how your life would be different if you never came across it or if it never existed. Think about like inspirational.
Inspirational. That's a tough one. Inspirational, huh? Well, let me tell you. Recently, I picked up an album by Andy Mineo. It's called Heroes for Sale.
Okay.
And I was going through a tough time a couple of months ago. You know, I had some problems in my marriage, and I was feeling very hurt and resentful and angry, and just, you know, went, I could have taken the less path, the
Yeah.
lesser path,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And just this guy's music is just like, because he's speaking spirituality and positivity and truth and all these things, just it really helped me get back into perspective. So I have to say Andy Mineo, Heroes for Sale, is really a record that has really helped me a lot.
Any
Big
particular
time.
tracks that that people should check out?
Yeah, listen to the track called Tug of War. Yeah, Tug of War. It talks about the spiritual battle that we go through and that we want to do right, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's really great.
Yeah.
It's really a good song. It's very transparent and it can really open up one's perspective on the inner war that we're all going through inside.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, man. This has been
Problem.
it's been a cool interview, cool hearing your story,
Nice.
and sharing your knowledge about about your budding music career. So yeah, thanks again, Michael.
No doubt, man. I'm
Okay.
glad we got to get together.
Okay, and
And
thanks thanks again to
appreciate
Chris
it.
and Alicia. Thanks again
Chris
to
and
Chris
Alicia,
and Alicia.
TRS 24/7, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna get it.
All right, man.
Yeah, baby.
All right. See you later.
All right, God bless.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Seeds of Music. On the show, we had Michael Harewood. Again, I want to thank Michael for coming on the show, so make sure to check out his links below and give your support. Next, sign up for the email newsletter if you haven't already. It's the best way to stay up to date with everything about Seeds of Music, to get notified of the interviews and get special subscriber content. Also, if you if you don't know what a podcast is, head over to iTunes if you have an account, or create an account if you don't have one. Go to the podcast section and search for Seeds of Music, Rise Above the Noise, and what you'll find is an audio-only version of the show where you can download to your smartphone or to your iPod or even to your computer, and if you subscribe to that, it automatically downloads each new episode as it goes. And another thing, if you have a chance, if you like the show, make sure to leave a rating and a review, because if you do that, subscribing, rating, and reviewing, it's going to help the Seeds of Music podcast rank higher within iTunes, give it more visibility, and help it gain more viewers. So if you do that, I really appreciate it. Next, like and share this interview on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, if you really enjoyed it and you feel like you got something of value from it. And last, comment on the video. What was your greatest takeaway from the interview? How will you apply what you've learned? And who would you like to see interviewed next? Also, if you yourself would like to be interviewed on the show, just send me an email at kyle.seedsofmusic@gmail.com. I answer every email. At the most, it takes about 2 days for me to get back to you. And remember, we are the future of music.